I really need to talk about what's been going on. My name is Sarah Brown. I'm 28 and live in London. I work as a marketing executive at a top tech company. My husband, John, is 31 and works as a financial analyst at a big investment bank. We've been married for 3 years. On the outside, our life looks perfect. We both love traveling, exploring different cultures, cooking together, and hosting dinner parties for our friends. But recently, things have changed, and it's been really hard for me. I've always trusted John completely. We built our relationship on honesty and mutual respect. But over the past few months, I've felt a shift. At first, it was small things. He started working late more often, and when he came home, he seemed distant. Our conversations got shorter, and the warmth we had started to fade. One evening, I found a receipt for a dinner at a restaurant we've never been to. When I asked John about it, he said it was a business dinner. I wanted to believe him, but something in his eyes didn't match his words. Then, I noticed other things. Messages on his phone he quickly dismissed as work-related, calls he took in another room, and weekends where he said he was playing tennis but came back late without a good explanation. I started to feel this nagging suspicion, like a weight pressing on my chest. I didn't want to believe John could be unfaithful, but the signs were getting harder to ignore. I found myself checking his phone when he was in the shower, looking through his emails, and even following him once when he said he was going to a client meeting. I felt like I was losing myself, becoming paranoid and distrustful. One night, I confronted him. I told him I felt like he was hiding something from me and worried he was seeing someone else. He denied it, of course. He got angry, said I was being ridiculous, and that I needed to trust him. But his anger didn't convince me, it only made me more certain that something was wrong. Over time, I began to notice more disturbing signs. John started receiving messages late at night and would quickly turn his phone away from me. He became more secretive about his whereabouts, and there were days when he left early in the morning and came back late at night, claiming he had a lot of work to catch up on. Then, one day, I accidentally saw a message on his phone from a woman named Emma. She thanked him for a wonderful evening and mentioned how much she enjoyed their time together. My heart sank. I didn't confront him immediately. I needed to gather my thoughts and figure out what to do next. A few days later, I noticed our joint bank account had less money than usual. I checked the transactions and saw several withdrawals I couldn't account for. When I asked John about it, he brushed it off, saying he had to cover some unexpected expenses. But the amounts were significant, and his vague explanations didn't add up. I started to feel more isolated and stressed. The man I loved and trusted was slipping away, and I didn't know how to reach him. I tried to talk to him about our relationship and how I was feeling, but he either shut me down or got defensive. I felt like I was talking to a stranger. John and I used to be so close, sharing our dreams, fears, and joys. But now, it felt like there was a wall between us. He would come home, eat dinner in silence, and then retreat to another room or fall asleep on the couch. The intimacy we once shared was gone. One night, I decided to follow him. He said he was going to a late-night tennis match, but I didn't believe him. I waited a few minutes after he left and then drove to the tennis courts. He wasn't there. I felt a surge of panic and drove around aimlessly, trying to figure out where he could be. Eventually, I saw his car parked outside a hotel. My heart shattered. I knew what this meant, but I couldn't bring myself to confront him then and there. I went back home and waited for him. When he finally came back, he tried to act normal, but I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told him I saw his car at the hotel and demanded to know the truth. He didn't deny it this time. He admitted he had been seeing someone else for the past few months. He said he didn't plan for it to happen, but it just did. He apologized, but his words felt hollow. I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and betrayal. I loved John with all my heart, and knowing he had been unfaithful tore me apart. I didn't know what to do. Should I leave him? Should I try to work things out? My mind was a whirlwind of confusion and pain. I decided to take some time to myself. I stayed with a friend for a few days to clear my head. When I came back home, I told John we needed to talk. I laid everything out, my feelings, my fears, my suspicions, and how his actions had affected me. I told him I wanted to understand why he did what he did and if he was willing to work on our marriage. He seemed genuinely sorry and said he wanted to make things right. He agreed not to repeat it. It's not easy. Some days, I feel like we're making progress for recovery, and other days, I'm overwhelmed by anger and sadness. Trusting him again feels almost impossible, but I'm trying. I love him, and I believe our relationship is worth fighting for. John has been more open and communicative lately. He's making an effort to rebuild the trust he broke. We've had long, honest conversations about our feelings and what led to his infidelity. He admitted he felt neglected and unappreciated, and that the affair was a way for him to escape those feelings. While it's hard to hear, understanding his perspective helps me process what happened. A few weeks later, we went on a trip to the countryside. We both thought getting away from the city and our busy schedules might help us reconnect. The first few days were pleasant enough. We went for walks, cooked meals together, and tried to enjoy each other's company. But the underlying tension was still there, simmering just beneath the surface. One evening, we went to a local pub for dinner. I noticed John checking his phone frequently, and it brought back all those feelings of suspicion and insecurity. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. When we got back to our cottage, I confronted him about it. He said it was work-related, but I could see the frustration in his eyes. He accused me of not trusting him and said he was tired of constantly being under scrutiny. We had a huge argument that night. All the bottled-up emotions came pouring out. I told him how hurt and betrayed I felt, and he admitted he was struggling to rebuild my trust. He said he felt like he was walking on eggshells, trying to prove himself to me every day. It was a painful conversation. A few weeks later, John had a business trip to Paris, and I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I knew Emma lived in Paris, and the thought of John being in the same city as her made me sick to my stomach. He assured me it was strictly business, but my anxiety was through the roof. While he was away, I found myself spiraling. I checked his social media, his emails, and even called his hotel to make sure he was really there. It was exhausting and consuming. When he returned, I confronted him again. I told him about my fears, my sleepless nights, and my constant state of anxiety. He listened patiently and reassured me that he had no contact with Emma. But I happened to live in a state of fear and suspicion. There were days when I would feel overwhelmed by doubt and fear. I would have flashbacks of finding that message from Emma or seeing his car at the hotel. Another hardest part was dealing with the opinions of our friends and family. Some of them knew about John's infidelity, and their judgment and advice were often overwhelming. Some urged me to leave him, saying I deserved better. Others advised me to forgive and move on. It was difficult to navigate these opinions and to stay true to my own feelings and decisions. Then, another significant event happened a week ago. John came home one evening with a troubled expression. He sat me down and told me that Emma had reached out to him. She wanted to meet and talk about their past relationship. My heart sank, and I felt a wave of fear and anxiety wash over me. John assured me that he had no intention of meeting her and that he wanted to be transparent with me about her reaching out. He showed me the messages and his response, which was clear and firm, stating that he was committed to his marriage and had no interest in rekindling any relationship with her. 2 days ago, I accidentally met a distant friend who works in an office far from where John works. She doesn't know about the problems between me and John or about Emma. But she told me she saw John with a woman a few days ago while they were walking nearby. From her description, the woman looked like Emma. John never mentioned meeting Emma there, except for when she unexpectedly visited his office. This situation brought back all my old fears and insecurities. I was terrified that Emma would find a way back into his life and that I would lose him again.
Sarah, your commitment to your marriage and willingness to work on it is commendable. Your ability to have open, honest conversations with John about his infidelity is a crucial step towards healing. The shared interests you and John have, such as traveling and cooking together, provide a strong foundation for reconnecting. However, rebuilding trust after such a betrayal is challenging. Your ongoing suspicions and John's secretive behavior add to this difficulty, and the emotional toll on you is significant. The opinions of friends and family, while well-meaning, can sometimes complicate your decisions. Despite these challenges, there is hope. John's transparency about Emma and his firm response to her advances show his commitment to your marriage. Healing takes time, patience, and effort from both of you. Celebrate small victories and be kind to yourself. Your dedication to your relationship and John's efforts to make amends are promising signs. With the right support and mutual effort, your marriage can heal and grow stronger. Good luck, Sarah.